Hello, everybody. How's everyone going? Oops. Yeah. There you go. Wonders of technology. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. How is everybody? Hey, Fractalians. What's doing? Slightly later to start than usual. The 5 more minutes rule turned into a little bit longer. Just a little bit. All right, let's get started, quote unquote, with the latest updates. Make sure we have the latest. Hey, Karuna. Yep. So fast. Right, let's extract here. So, what's everyone feeling today? Alrighty, so we've loaded the thing. I'm sure most people know the deal. We have a new thing here, quality assurance. which is pretty cool. We'll basically run a quick test. For example, no errors found, for example. So yeah, this will actually tell you how well you're going there. I can get rid of that. But yeah, super useful for making sure that you've got no duplicate names and some other things like that. We'll be adding to that in the future to make it even easier. All right, so would love Reactor. I missed the lag between chat and what I say and my memory. Never the best connection. That one I'll check. Actually, put that in support. Support? Yeah, put that in support in regards to, just as a reminder, I'll get the team to see if we can put that in the package. I'll do that now. That might actually be already available. If you go to the docs down under guides, there's upgrade templates. There's a Unity package that has some new stuff. You could try that and see if that has been updated. If not, we will update that soon. Okay, let's reduce those. And there we go. Alrighty. Now, some people have, and Wolf has actually already made a tutorial on audio with Reactor, but I will get one that's official, I guess you could say. Semi-official. So let's have a look. Create. Now, what we're going to need is something to walk on. We're also going to need a new game object. So let's put on audio test. Got one. I'm going to put the cube in that. So once again, every object is relative to its parent. So I'm currently moving the parent of the cube. Oh, I'm being so surprised. I like grids. Grids are good. So as you can see here, this is still 0, 0, 0, whereas this is on that. Now, that's useful and very, very useful if you start doing animations, for example, for your reactor. If you do an animation, the animation will override the position. So keep that in mind when you want to move objects after the fact. So if you move this, everything under will be sort of okay, but if you move this, then things go really weird. So keep that in mind when doing that. So if I move this to there, for example, and then I animate it down to the bottom, down to here again, it doesn't give you a good indication of where it is. So finding that sweet spot of a default scene that I'm moving around in editor, and then what happens when it animates is a little bit tricky, but useful when you try and get that sorted. All right, on our cube, let's put the audio source on that. So audio source. I'm gonna have to get an MP3 in a sec. We also need to add. What is it? I haven't played with audio that much. I think it's Audio Mixer. Yeah, I think that's it. Cube. Now we need this one, master, and put that in this object here. So master goes there. I never actually play with the master. That's fine. And I never play with that either. So, I'm sure you can. I don't. So, next up we need a reactor, which is down here. Nope, not that one. In Mona. Template scripts. Create empty. Reactor. Trigger audio. Script. On enter. And on exit. So in this case, what we're going to do is we'll set the trigger to start the audio every time you walk on the box. So I can do that. Audio on and audio off. So let's get on to this one. Back to animation. Create. Animations. Cube audio on. I definitely recommend using really good names for everything you do. Especially with more complex reactor things where you start having animations versus objects versus components and parameters in a really complex system, it gets pretty messy pretty quickly. So make sure you do that. All right. So what we're doing is we're going to turn this audio score source off, and we're going to use this effect. Now, we don't want this animated. We just want it on. So play on awake. Every time it is awake, the audio will play. And that's pretty much it. Now, because we don't want the audio to play at the start, we'll just set that to off. So we've got that. Record, set that to on. And hopefully the rest will be okay, actually. And then we need our collider. Now, because the trigger here and the cube here is sort of on the same object here, this actually makes a lot of sense. If this was at 0, then it gets, once again, a little bit more difficult to track what's going on there. All right, so we have that. So next we need to set up a reactor. So on audio on, set the cube animator parameter, which we haven't done yet. So click on the cube. Now we don't want the audio on to be the default. We want cube audio off. So right mouse click, set as layer default state, make transition, make transition. Now we need a parameter over here, Boolean. Let's go audio on is true. So we want to happen this anytime. So as soon as we press the collider, audio on is true. As exit time, audio on is false. Then we go back to our reactor, and now that we have a parameter, which I named awesomely, audio on, Boolean to true. Audio on to Boolean false. Okay. Last thing we need is random MP3. What's everyone's favorite type of music? Let's get some Battle Chasers music. That'd be cool. EDM or rock. All right. Let's see what we can do there then. Electro house. Progressive house. Tech house. Electronica. Hard dance. How about that? Our trigger audio is an empty game object. Let's do future house. Anything that what sounds very Let's do this one. I have no idea what this will sound like, but it sounds loud, so that'll do. Yeah, so our trigger audio is an empty game object. I make these and put an R so I know that that is the reactor and the collider. So that keeps the reactor script and the collider script. So if I want to, I can actually move that around, and it has a clear connection of this collider is going to affect this animation. So this cube, which has the animator on it, is what the collider connects to. And our trigger is the one that makes it happen. So that is a super useful visual guide to how to use these. Right, so our audio clip, let's put that on there. You're welcome. And let's not lose a loop. Let's not use a loop because it's a long song and we only want it to play once. Someone had to stand on it for a very long time. So we've got that. All right. Now let's test. Once again, there are some things that I don't. I never trust it to work first time, but we'll see how we go. All right. Fingers crossed. All right. We have our. All right. I don't know. You might not hear it. Tell me if you hear it. No, I don't hear it. Well, that's unfortunate. Okay. Let's go troubleshooting. Now, clear that, delete that. Once again, if your space does not update, or doesn't seem to update, make sure you delete the playground files, because if you do it really quickly for some reason, it won't override the playground files. So that's a pretty common issue, where it's just like, I did something and it doesn't work. So... Okay, that works. Okay, that might be useful. Do that. Could be that. Probably not. All right. So let's go through the process of troubleshooting. So usually what I'll do is I'll start at the reactor and sort of play through it in the process. So let's make this bigger. So audio on set boolean. I think I already know what it is. I don't know, I did that. Audio on true. Audio false. There we go. So this is what was wrong. So if you have a default state here, which is off, and have turned this on, then it will never go up here in order to go down. So make sure that this is set to the default state. Otherwise, it will not ever trigger the first state and it will go in the loop. So there is definitely one problem there. That said, I'm going to go through this whole process of how I troubleshoot these things. So, name not important, but make sure it's set. Now, there are other options if you want them. For example, I don't know if invert works anymore. So, I was playing with that yesterday, so we'll get back to that soon. But set will set whatever the variable it is to the parameter value. Addition will add the parameter to add the value in Reactor to the parameter in Animator. Same with subtraction, multiplication, and division. Invert will switch the two. So when it's a 1, it'll go to -1. If it's a true, it'll go to false. If it's a false, it'll go to true. So sometimes if you need a toggle situation, this one is quite useful. But we want set. Set the cube, and I will check if the cube has the animator. Yes, it does. Cube, audio on, boolean to true, audio off, set cube, audio on, boolean to false. There is a collider, but I honestly do think it was that. So next up, I'll look at the animations, for example. So I'll go to audio off, which is the default state. That's off. Now you can show that here. And then go audio on. That's not on. That also might be it. Audio source on. So we've got that. So there are two problems. And then you can see that in action. Okay. So that's my quick troubleshooting guide is, go through the collider, check everything there, go through the animation, check if that's on it, go through the animations, run through. Sometimes it won't update. So if you have a different position, it won't move until you slide the playhead. And there you go. All right, fingers crossed again. All right, ready? The smallest club known to man. 1 meter square club. All right. So there you go. We have liftoff. Now, another approach. Let's do. So that was on and off. So every time you get on it, it will trigger the sound from scratch, which is fine. But maybe you don't want that. Maybe you want volume. So record, audio on. I'm going to put the audio to 1. And audio off, I'm going to get rid of this one. And the audio, let's go to 0.1. No, 0.1. It's a little bit of sound. Oops. Record on. A little bit of sound. Now, this is one of the great things about Animator, is that this transition will blend between any two states that it can transition to. Now, on and off, of course, you can't transition, so that's just going to be instant. However, I can do a 1 second transition if I wanted to. Let's make it a bit longer. Yes. So yeah, anything that can blend. So this includes position, scale, rotation, even color, for example. Now it will go across the spectrum of color, but anything that has the ability to logically tween between two states, you can actually create an animation as a one keyframe. It doesn't give you the control of animation, so you can't do ease in and ease out and all that sort of stuff. But if you're doing a door that opens, then you don't really need to do the animation, and this is a lot quicker. So I find that this approach is actually pretty good. So let's do this. So when we get on it, we have a 1 second transition, but when we get off it, we have so scroll 5 second transition. See how this goes. Should be interesting. Okay, that's the only thing I changed. Audio on. That should be fine. Audio source. Fingers crossed. So that's 0.5, hopefully. Yeah. So there's a slight fade in there. 0.1 sounds quite loud, actually. Kind of interesting. But yeah. So that's what you can do with audio. Now I'm going to turn that down because that was quite surprisingly loud. Where is it? Animation. Ooh, did I delete? I don't think I did. That's fine. So that's all audio. Pretty quick and very easy. So audio off. Now if I just put 0.01, that should update here. So this one is only used when I'm moving things around here, but I believe I can just type it in there. If not, I'm just going to do it double check. So 1.01 because I don't trust it. All right. Cool. So that's a quick audio. Now you could, if you really wanted to, yeah. So the thing is, I'm finding, and I think other people are as well, that when because we have multiplayer with Reactor, you can't really think of your space as a one-person space. So if you're creating an environment, so say for example, I wanted to use the volume to control how loud things are, but as a radius to different objects, for example. So you can use radial. I believe there is, where is it? Like there's a range. I think this one's here. So say for example, you can actually change the effect of how the range of that space, for example. So out here it's very quiet and then there it's very loud. I think that's where it is. Oh, that's the min. Where's that one then? Oh, wow. Okay. So your default audio space is very large. F to zoom. Now, so say for example, I would have, nope, that's the small one again. So we can do this. So this is the volume space. So we have that as well if you want to use it that way. Once again, I haven't actually played with audio that much, so we could actually see what that does. Now, notice how that was really fast in comparison to usual builds. Now, I think that's because it didn't update. So I'm going to delete that and do it again. So notice how that was longer. So if your build is really fast, I recommend just deleting it. Hey, Matt. How you doing? Okay. So that's quieter. Okay. Not sure how range works. I will admit. I'll get it one day. But you can do range on audio. That's definitely seen. Actually, I don't know if it fades in, actually. There are some spaces that have like location-based ones, and I'm not sure if it actually fades in. So that is possibly one way you could fade in over time with Reactor script when someone walks into that. So that could work. All right. Next, so what would people like to see next? We could do some light mapping, we could do some reflection probes, we could do some light probes, we could do some more reactor. We could get into Blender and do some retopology. So I think a lot of people are having some problems with those sort of objects. So if you have a complicated object, how to get that poly count down as much as possible. So we could do a quick example of that. Lots of options, basically. Actually, let's check the Discord to see if there's any questions. Okay, let's do a bit of that then. Blender. Okay. Just a quick overview of reflection probes and light probes. So, a reflection probe is a spot in the space that will project the scene around it, anything that is set to static, onto that point. And in the kind of the collider that is related to that probe, if anything is set to metallic or smoothness, it will reflect that baked object, right? So if I have an object here and I bake from here, the reflection and a wall here, for example, if I get on the other side of the wall and the collider's there, you will still have the reflection of this side. So there's that. So how you lay out your reflection probes is a bit of a trick. We can definitely look at that after a quick retopology situation. The light probes. Yes, I will do some a quick lighting test after the retopology. So we can definitely do that. And light probes are how light affects dynamic objects. So if you have your avatar running around in light probes, the light probes will take the general light information in that point in space. So when I run in between these three probes, it will color dynamic objects correctly. to that. So basically light probes and reflection probes, both of them are very, very useful and important to create good lighting and experiences in your space. Okay, now, how can I do this? I always forget which one it is. Yeah, that one. Okay, let's get a quick, amazing sculpt. What's that? I don't use... Okay. That doesn't actually... Yeah, that's not actually doing the thing. One day I'll figure out which one it is. Triangulate? Nope. I use ZBrush for this sort of stuff, so one day... There we go. Yeah, that'll do. Okay. So let's go up here, make it pretty obvious. Cool. Now just imagine this is a super high quality object. The best you've ever seen. Okay. Once again, naming is important. So cube high. Now, I recommend using underscore high because if you use Substance Painter, you can use that to make meshes use these sort of things much better. So, as in, like, you can do a high and a low on an object base to bake them separately, even though they're all in one file. So it will clean up some of the overlaps and stuff. So that's a really good technique. So as always... What? Why? Okay. Level viewport. There we go. Okay, cool. All right. So next we need our mesh. So I'm actually going to delete most of this. I just need an object to start with. So I'm going to delete that and do see-through. So delete that. And then I'm going to grab these. Now, there's a lot of settings you can do, so backface culling and all these sorts of things, but for this, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to create snap on face. So once again, this is where the magic happens, basically. So select magnet, so snap to face, and then as soon as I press G, it will snap to the face, for example. And that's basically it for retopology. But say, for example, we have some particularly good shapes here. So I'm going to press 2 to go there. F. E, sorry. We'll go there. 1 to go. Oops. G is the one we want. So we have our eye. Now, for this sake, I'm actually going to use mirror. Wrong mirror. There we go. And mirror object on this one. It's not. It's not exactly in the middle, so that's not going to work very well. So basically, that's it. So say I'll go to E over here, E over here. 1. Control R will do that. Now this might be because in preferences, add-ons, I've added mesh F2. So if I press F or other things, it can do certain things really well. So I put that on for certain mesh edits. 3. Not what I want. I want that one. Now, everyone's approach to doing all of this is slightly different, so I could have done that in many different ways. And note that retopology is all about the silhouette. The detail is in the bake of the normal map. So if I want to look at that angle, I want to see the depression, so that's why I'm putting it here. Put that there. Another tool you could use is a shrink wrap. I don't use it because I haven't had much luck with it, so it sort of moves things down. So that will sort of on surface to the target, for example. But as you can see, sometimes it doesn't work as well. So for that ultimate control, I will usually just do it manual. So what do we got? E. Now with the F controller, for example, I can grab that and press F, and it will just do that really quick. And once I've done that, I can do Control R, and then go right mouse click to set it to the center. True. I find that with Substance Painter, it uses underscore low and underscore high by default. You can change that, but I just use that because then I don't have to change that because I'm lazy. So Control R to do that. Scroll up to add, for example. Right mouse click. Why is that shame on me? It's optimization of time. Now, generally with retopology, I do prefer. I'm kind of a bit too much on it, actually, of quads. So if you're sculpting, for example, tries to mess the sculpt up. And animation is also a little trickier. Oops, with that. So I recommend quads at all times. You don't have to, but I think it's just a thing from doing things in the old times. Okay, so I'm sure you get the idea here. I'm going to press that, and with F, that, and then F. Now that's not great, so I'm actually going to, not that one, that one. And then I can do this. And now because I have that extra, I can actually make that a little bit smoother. So I will do a quick bake of this in Painter, just so we can get that, like the complete retopology experience. Kind of looks scary. You know, there's like it's a clown. Like, you know how people get scared of clowns. Alt and click will get a loop. Control and left will get rid of these. And then we can do this. It's not me, it's you. Okay, so we have a full face, basically, in a very short period of time. Hopefully this is not too boring. I get a little bit too precise about these things, I really do. So I'll clean this up, and then we're done. So as you could, oops, no, we need to do this one. So if you can imagine this as a full character, it does take a long time. It's one of those sort of Zen things, like everyone sort of hates UV mapping, but along with UV mapping, there's a sense of Zen with this kind of approach, and it kind of does get interesting when you're trying to optimize your object as much as possible with quads. So animation is nice. The thing is also, if you do good edge loops and quads, you can easily do these things. So in this case, we have sort of like an n-gon, not an n-gon. Well, yeah, this point. So the edge loop will stop. So say, for example, if I wanted to edit this whole loop really easily, this wouldn't work, just because that's how edge loops works. So trying to come up with a really clean topology is kind of puzzle solving. Zen puzzle solving is what I'm now calling it from now. UV maps and retopology. If anyone's seen Surf's Up, and if you haven't, you should, because it's amazing. It's that moment on the surfboard where he's like, just put your hands up if you've seen that. If you do, you're automatically awesome. I've built friendships on that movie on the grounds that they didn't see it, and then they saw it, and they thanked me forever since. Some not so much, but some definitely so. Surf's Up. See it. Okay. We have our fantastic view here. So let's do this. So cube underscore low. I think it's lowercase. I'm not sure. So go see Surf's Up. Now the normal direction, not the normal maps, the normal direction of these is also important. It will take that into consideration with the bake. So if I turn off the high, you can see that it is all very angular. We don't want that. We want this object to be smooth. Like so. So we got cube low, cube high. So I'm going to save this out, export, FBX. This is on the desktop. Let's make a new one. Assets. Now note is the object, not the file, the save name, so I can call this anything, for example. But I'm going to do it properly. So this was the low. Oops. This was the low. Cool. Selected object, make sure that is on. It is not set on default. Export. Oh, hang on. Let's try that again, just to make sure. Cube low, select objects, export. cube hi. Select objects, export. I don't think we need to save this file. All right, let's go into Painter. Hopefully the audio doesn't mess up, but Painter on Steam is cheaper and you don't need to use a subscription. And if Steam is having a sale, you can get it on sale. So I highly recommended that. I'm not a fan of subscription models. So advertising that. Yeah, I've heard that one. I used to use a 3D coat, which was a lot cheaper. Marmoset also does good baking now, but you can't... Oh, I think you can actually paint in Marmoset now too. So there are definitely alternatives. That said, I like how Painter does like smart materials and things like that. So, new. We're going to use... I don't think... The right one isn't in here actually, so I'm just gonna do that. File. Now this one is the low polygon. Assets, low, open. 2048 is what we want to do because we want the pristine perfect version. Now I can auto unwrap. Now we didn't unwrap it, so I'm going to use this actually. You can sort of set these things up. I could actually look at that in Blender as well. So let's... So it does the square, and it's really small in the space. So let's go back here. And go to edit mode, UV editing. So that's the problem there. So that should be pretty easy to unwrap. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Let's do that. Back to layout. Now, if you wanted to, for example, I could create, if I go to object mode, edit, line, you can use, where is it? Mark seam, for example. And then if I go UV edit, so that would be a really good spot to create a seam. And if I go like that and go unwrap, it will create two, for example. So it will, this is a really good way to sort of unwrap complicated objects, but this is not a very complicated object. Of course, you have other options, so you could select objects and project from view, and then edit things in here. But that's a whole thing, and I'd like to get into lighting and reflection probes and stuff like that as well. So, but mostly I do most of my more complex objects with seams and unwrap, to be honest. So we need to resave this. Cube low. Re-import. So let's just do a new one. Turn that off. Discard. And there we have our fantastic face. Now, baking is in texture settings. We're going to go down here to bake mesh maps. We're going to put all of these things. Generally, you only need the normal, but if you want to do any of the smart map stuff, you can use that. We want a 2048, and we want to put in our cube high. Open. Now, if I had multiple objects, I can use this, match by mesh name. And then you have your two names here. So LOE, LOW, and high. So I got them right. Great me. Lowercase. So if I had 5 different objects in Blender with underscore low, high, and low, So the high file has all of the underscore high, and the low has all of the underscore low. It will bake them as separate maps, and it just disregards the other ones. So very, very useful for cleaning up your process there. Anti-aliasing I usually leave off because it adds time to the bake. And everything else is pretty much good. So let's go bake selected surfaces. There we go. Now, of course, the there's not that many polygons, and I didn't add smooth to the sculpt, so that's why that happens. So that's kind of funny, actually. So because I put that indent, you can actually do that, and it looks correct. If it wasn't, the map would be a bit strange. And just because I want to, let's put some... Let's make it a little bit horrific. There we go. Ah, that reminds me of the head, like the head 5 heads. That's horrible. Hang on. There we go. So I notice the bake can do these sort of things, and this is kind of why I like Substance Painter. It doesn't like that one. Okay. What else do we have? What's Nope. Denim head. Okay, kind of weird. All right. Anyway, so that's Substance Painter and baking. Yeah. The cost of good is memory, basically. I just like putting things on it. It's cool. Anyway, so that's baking and retopology. Now, if you have really, really large objects, you're probably not going to do the baking. So if you're looking at like a huge mesh that you've created for a part of the space, then you're probably not going to do a bake. You're just going to do smooth and retopologize if you wanted to go that far, or decimate. A lot of people are using decimate for that and getting that as low as possible. So that's a quick example of that. Should I save it? Kind of want to. Sure, why not? Awesome. Head. Not one, just in case I want to make more in the future. Sure, why not? Save. Desktop. Awesome. Head. Not 5. Not 1. Done. Okay. So hopefully that covers retopology of complex shapes, statues and stuff. That would be pretty good. And pretty much any object that has a high poly count that could be baked onto a texture. So a texture and low polygon is much better than tens of thousands of polygons. Yes. So you'll get your high polygon object. Unwrap the low polygon object to the size you want. It could be one map or many. As few as possible is good. Then take that into a baking application. Blender can do it, I believe. I have not done it because I prefer Substance Painter, but Marmoset can do it, Substance Painter can do it. Every 3D program can do it, like 3D Studio Max can do it. I don't know if like Rhino can, because that seems to be a bit more ArchViz sort of stuff, like technical stuff, but it might. And yeah, so a lot of programs use baking. I just like Substance because it bakes all of the things like curvature and all that sort of stuff. There we go. Yeah. And Blender is free. Haha. That too. All right. So let's look at lighting situation. Create empty. Let's do some quick examples I do not want to call it that. Walls. So we have some actual things to bake. Put that over here. So let's make some boxes. Boxes. Use control to snap objects, including things like this. So I use that quite a lot. Control D to duplicate. Ding, 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 ding. Turn off gizmos. Yeah, that'll do. Let's add a couple of lights. Now we have our directional light. So yeah, I'm going to put that down to 0.5 so the shadow is slightly chill. Yeah, hang on. Set up the animations. Yes. The animator. Yes. Set audio off by default. Yes. Set the transitions with the audio on parameter. Yes. So Boolean on and off. Audio plays when the first start the scene. Enter does nothing. Exiting stops the audio for 1 second, then audio starts playing again. Okay, if you want audio off to start, make sure that your animator... So once again, animator here, make sure this is off, and this is set to the audio thing. And then that transitions to on. Audio on to true, audio on to false. It could be a loop thing. So if it's not looping or it is looping, that's a point there. If you want to actually to do that, you can click on the audio and do... Where's loop? Huh. Okay. Sometimes it's here and sometimes it's not. But you can definitely do it on the audio trigger here. So loop, for example. Yeah, it's a bit hard to troubleshoot with text. Sorry. Okay, so one director real-time light for shadowing, and then that's basically all I will use my real-time for. And then I will add some point lights. Here. So let's do some colors so we can sort of see what's going on there. Put that up to 15. And no, the range, put that to 15, well, 10 and 4. 5 and 10. Now that's really bright. Need the gizmos back. That's also not that red. There we go. That's what we want. Duplicate that and put another one here. So let's go blue. And let's do this. We're going to duplicate that. Scale that down. And then I'm going to make a new material that glows. Which is mostly here. So turn animation on. Let's make this pink. Now it's got white to glow. So if I make that red or even green. So sometimes you can get some nice effects with that. Just a little bit, very subtle. Now this glow intensity is at 0, so we want that actually to be pretty bright. And then we can drag that onto there. Yep. Now let's make a couple of example materials. So we can sort of see the progression of how that works. Using control to get the same level. Put that there. Okay. So this is going to be sort of like, let's just do map 1. Let's make it slightly blue, because that's a good metal. Metallic and smoothness set to 0. .25. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to do 0.5s on all of them, for example, or 0.25 plus. Now, of course, you can play as you see fit, but .5. And as you can see, the reflection in this default state will start getting really clear, especially with metallic, with smoothness, sorry. So that gets really clear. I don't recommend doing that, because if you make it super clear but your reflection probe is lower quality, it's really obvious that it's low quality, and anything higher starts really eating into your file size, for example. So I wouldn't recommend, unless you really need to, getting reflection probes above 1024. Just because. So metallic and smoothness, for example. So smoothness is actually the main one. So you can still see it clear there, even when metallic is low. But this is purely clear. So keep that in mind when you're creating your... So you can sort of see that. And there's a big jump between sort of 0.75, which is this one. So 0.75 and 1, for example. So usually I don't put anything above 0.9. So smoothness and metallic, I will rarely put above 0.9, just for that. Okay. And let's do one more thing so I can show you exactly how reflection probes work. So I'm going to put this over here, and this over here, and I need a second glow. This one can be yellow. Make sense in a second. All right. So first up, let's do not that one, that one. A create empty. Put it over. Actually, no, I'm going to leave that over there. Probes. Now let's start with reflection maps. So we got light, reflection probe. Now I'm going to put the default position over here. Put that there. I'm going to put that there for now as an example. Move that up to about avatar eye height. So whenever the avatar runs into this cube, it will reflect whatever this probe does, for example. Now, we need to make sure that all of our objects, however, are static. So it bakes them. So we've got that. Now, if I want to change the cube size, I can use this button here. If I want to change the location of where it bakes to, I can use that. So everything will... I can show you with my hands to show you nothing because it makes no difference. So everything will bake to the probe in that location or to that location. So in this case, I want to reflect this side. as an example, and then press bake. So as you can see, we have our reflection probe. So notice how we have one and it's on this side. So you can't, well, you can a little bit, but you can't really see. Actually, let's make this really obvious. There. Notice how this is baked. Keep that baked. What real-time does, it will bake over like a duration of time. So refresh on awake every frame and via scripting. So scripting we don't have access to. Every frame is ridiculously processor heavy and on awake. So every time the scene starts. So we want baked because we don't want to do that basically. So we go bake. So as you can see, there's kind of no yellow now because it's on that level. So yeah, we have that. Let's do a quick light map bake in there as well. So using baked map. So this hasn't got any. Go to scene. If that's not one, use new lighting settings. You can find out where that is just by clicking on it. Go baked indirect. That should be fast enough for me because my computer's all right. I will turn all of these down to about a quarter though. What do I usually do? 64, 64. Light map resolution. I can, with this sort of scene, I can do 20. Usually put it up to 2048, depends on what your settings are. Put ambient occlusion on because it looks pretty. This needs to go to non-directional, so keep that in mind. And leave that on. I believe that's right. Everything's set to static. The floor is not set to static, I don't think. So I'm going to double check that. Floor. No, that's static. Okay. Generate lighting. Ah, and we can tell. There we go. So because the ground is so big, we have that. And we have our objects here. Now, even though these are not square, they set to square because the UV map is that basically don't use cubes, don't use Unity cubes because the light mapping settings are hard to work with, basically. So keep that in mind. So yeah. So now if I move my light, for example, yeah. I did that on purpose so I could show you that you have to set this to baked. And baked. Directional light, I still want to be real time. So, note to self. You should. I am nothing if not believable. So there you go. That's what we're looking at. That's correct. And then after you do that, I recommend baking. If with Unity light mapping, basically if you use bake here, all these will all reflection probes will be baked as well. So as you can see, we have the baked information in there as well. So we have that. And you can see the reflection in there, but notice how that is not accurate because it just does the best it can with the information it has. So here it is reflecting itself. So that object will be reflecting this probe in it, for example. So it's a bit weird, and this is why we don't make it clear. So you make it fuzzy, and that makes it work well. So let's have a look. Yeah. Just wanted to test the audio. So if you look at that, so notice how the quality of it isn't great. You can actually see the pixels because it's like that's 100% mirror. So you can actually see the pixels there, which you don't really want. So we can look at that. Now, if I had my robot, you could see the reflection in the front, but we can't do that. So I'm going to have to give another example of that. Cool. What about that? Delete the playground files, so it updates. Okay, so we need some proof. I'm just going to put it in here. So let's put a sphere. Now for this one, we're actually going to keep that static. So not static. Is it this one? Yeah. F. So it doesn't need to be static to show reflection probes. So dynamic objects such as your avatar can do that. I'm going to duplicate that and put that over here. So notice when I look over here, the reflection probe is still the pink one. And on the wrong side. So to fix that, we can set up a second reflection probe. So I'm just going to copy that one and move it over here. And then I'm going to adjust these to just on the other side of that. Move that there. And then I'm going to adjust this to be there. Now, actually, I'm going to overlap. So an interesting thing that Unity does automatically is as soon as I enter the overlap, they will transition between these two blend maps. So it's actually really quite a neat effect. So I do recommend using that to your advantage. So let's bake this one. And notice how that one's yellow. So that is correct there. And then that one is pink. And as soon as, so let's select this. Let's see if we can do a cool example of that. So even though I move it over here, the reflection probe is still going to be sort of the same. So as you can see, just, hang on, let's see if we can do that. So if I move it, you can see the reflection. It is in relation to the probe location, I believe. So that's actually even better. And then when we move across here, so you can see the light there. You can sort of see the transition between the two. There. So it's quite interesting, but you do what you can. So yeah, keep reflections down so you don't make it as obvious. You can update the reflection probe quality if you really wanted to. So this is 128. So if it's really clear, it's not very good. You can actually get further down. But then when you look at these sort of less colorful versions, it works fine. But if you get up to 2048, it'll take a bit longer. No worries. Good luck with it. Thanks for joining. So that's a 2048. That's a very high quality resolution, but also very, very big in file size. So yeah, I don't recommend that at all. 512 is usually what you can get away with when you set metallic and smoothness to low. 1024 for like specific objects, like hero objects or hero rooms only. But yeah. So let's put that one over there again. Okay, now let's do some light probes. Light probe. Now this I'm going to make a bit bigger so we can see the yellow dots. Move that up. So basically, a light probe, if the avatar is between these objects, these these that's what I want. These objects, when the object is in between these three, the light data of that information. For normal textures, like object textures, 2048 is okay. Once again, that's pretty high, so make sure it needs that resolution. Feel like it's a good idea to use, if it's a tiling thing, use smaller textures and then use the secondary map to make it bigger. Don't forget, actually, very key point, don't forget to use crunch compression on textures. And play with the settings to keep the resolution quality, like the quality of the texture. That will save a lot of space and actually doesn't take that much away from the quality. When it comes to reflection probes, however, yeah, I do recommend keeping them low. Once again, it depends on how many you have and what they're used for. So in a simple room with not many metallic objects, then keep it really low, like down to 16 or 32. But if you have one room or one object that requires a mirror, then you could probably get to 1024 and have good results. If you have to use 2048, you can. Once again, it comes down to optimization and making sure that it works in Mono. So the answer to that is yes and no. So because there is a wall here and two different lights, so the yellow is a light, but the light doesn't really change much between these 2 points. So I'm going to space these out a fair bit. Actually, I'm going to do here, for example. You can, once again, if this is on, you can select the dots, Control D to copy. Control D to copy, select that correctly, and then do that. And do that. Now, the reason I'm putting these very close to the wall is because technically, because the yellow glow on this side, the light will be different on this side. So walls usually have things next to it and then put it really close on the other side, for example. And then outside of that, you can sort of do open areas. You can get rid of them. Each one does take a little bit of baked information, like purely light at that moment. So it's a little bit of information. So you can go a little bit more crazy with these. But if you have really complicated areas, you can add a lot more. And if you have really simple areas, you can create a lot less. Now, I'm not sure why these are there. That's an interesting one. And I'm going to do another layer up top because people jump all the time. I'm going to put that up there, actually. So we've got that. The wireframe shows you sort of the triangles where you're going in, but I'm going to turn that off because there we go. So that's light probes, basically. Now, you won't see it. Oh, you might see it a little bit on this character that I have. But if you have a white character, for example, the robot, that makes a huge difference in regards to making the avatar blend with the scene better. So light probes are quite important. with that. So now that we have that, let's do a quick rebake. Make sure everything is good. Let's put that up a bit. Yeah, we'll leave that. All right. I don't think the emissives are doing enough. So what I'm going to do, just to make sure they're working, is put this here. And then put this here. Try again. Make sure they're working. They are set to static. Yes, they are. Is there any other settings on here I have to do? Don't believe so. All right, let's try that. Maybe it's just not bright enough. Let's turn yellow up. See how that goes. All right. Be good. So with the dishes, what you need to do is select them all and just press delete. And then it's good. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It's just a bug. Okay, glow is definitely working. It's just an element there. Okay. All right. Let's test. Is it that obvious? So notice how, like, I am not in this reflection. So that is because it is baked. And if this was, once again, if it was fuzzy on the material, not so clear, it probably wouldn't be as obvious because I'm darker and things like that. So, oh, that's interesting. Huh. Why is that happening? Yeah. So yeah, that is light maps. Light maps. Yeah, we did actually do that. Light maps, light probes, and reflection. Ship it. If you're baking, not really. Hang on. So Mac and 3D. With point lights, no. There's no limit to point lights if you're baking. It will take a while to bake, probably. But yeah, if it's in the light map, it shouldn't be an issue. Real time, yes, 100%. Especially if you're having shadows. So shadows are the very processing thing. Real time lights is processing thing. So I tried to keep my real time lights to maximum 1 or 2, unless there's like a super special case, and then you create radius and optimize using different things. I don't think we have layers involved. There are ways you can optimize with that as well, so it only lights the things on a certain layer, stuff like that. I'm hoping we can have that eventually. So yes, hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, I have had that problem, and I don't know the way around that. That might be a Unity thing. So if I were you, I would probably look at the Unity forums, because that's probably a very Unity centric thing. I have had that as well. I forget. I think I just rebaked it, and sometimes it worked. So it could be a glitch on Unity side. So check out Unity forums. If and I recommend that with anyone. If you're having problems with Unity, the first place I go is Unity forums, because all of these problems have happened 20 million times before, and you can probably find it really quickly there. Yeah. So that's one workaround, is just turn them off. So yes, there may be an issue with that. Microsoft Visio, let me have a look. Yes. Okay. Let's have a quick look at that. This is definitely looking like turning more into a club. So let's have a look. There. So if you have an object in your space and you need it to be more or less important in the light map, you can click on the object, look down to the mesh renderer, and change this. So for example, so this can be bigger. I think that like doubles, if that's, I could be wrong there, or like halve in regards to the scale in the light map. So just for argument's sake, let's put that to, I don't know, 10. Go to lighting, have a look. So notice how that one there is that. Generate lighting and see it change. There we go. So now that will be higher quality in the space in comparison to the ground. So that's definitely one way you can control light maps in regards to dealing with that. Is that what you mean? MV? I'm going to call you that from now on because it's easier. Yeah. So say, for example, the floor, maybe we don't need that resolution. So I'm going to turn that actually down. Yeah, for sure. So let's say that 0.5. Now, of course, this detail won't be clean, but in a world space that has more stuff and also more polygons. So this whole floor is one polygon, which I wouldn't recommend. That's just the way we've set it up. Another reason to delete the thing that says delete me. So wink, wink, nudge, nudge, please do that. So if I put the floor to 0.5, that should halve, and then everything else might go up. So once again, let's bake that again. So that should be smaller, and these will be different again. What do we got? Okay, make light maps. So this is it smaller? I guess it's smaller. So because these are bigger, so comparatively, it's done that as well. So super useful for controlling your light maps a little bit more. Big thing, I'm going to add a texture for the sake of an example. Where? Too many drives. Textures. What's a cool texture? Yep, perfect. Okay, so let's go to Inspector. I'm going to drag in some textures. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to make a new material. And let's just call this tile. I like shiny, but too shiny is not good. 8. There we go. Oops. And then normal map. Now, don't forget to do fix me. This is a common normal map issue. So if you put a normal and you haven't fixed this, it will look really wrong. So inverted and all kinds of weird stuff. So if you do fix now, then it's all kinds of pretty. So make sure to do that. I'm going to put that down to 0.2. So these are the 2K. Now you can, when Unity imports textures into the space, it's not a PNG and it's not all of these things. It does some magic, and this is where you set the magic up. So for example, the normal map can be edited here. So you can just set it there. So the fix now just changes this to this for you. There are other things if you're doing a skybox, and I'll do a quick tutorial on that, I think, as well. And things like that. If you want to adjust the size, so these are 2K objects, so this would be no change, but I can actually change this down to a 1024, and the size gets changed down here, including the file size. So it actually gives you a good idea. So that's 2.7 meg, which is quite large. So I could put that down to 1024. So when you're creating your space, so let's do a good example here. That's really big, but that's a good example. So that looks kind of okay, to be honest, even at 2024. But if I put this down to 64, it starts getting a little bit messy. Now notice that this is the tile. So the tile is losing the color because it hasn't got enough in there, but the normal map is quite good. So let's pump that up to 512 and see if that looks all right. Yeah, a bit blurry there, so this probably needs to be higher. So 1024 is okay. Small difference. So basically go through each texture. Very subtle difference for like a very big file size change. So there's that. And then you can change this one to something that is maybe smaller. So that didn't change at all, for example. So adjust that as much as you can. Keep going down until it makes the difference is too great, and you don't want to go lower than that, and then go back up. So for argument's sake, we're going to keep this at 2024. Once again, this is 5.3 meg at 2048. So that's quite large, to be honest. And that's 1.3. So there's a lot of data in there. So just for file size, I'm going to keep that lower. But what you can do is add crunch compression. And that will do the same thing again. And that will get it down to 392K. So if you really wanted to, I could bump that back up to 2048. on crunch compression, and that's 1.5 meg. And the quality is still quite good. So these are two tools you can use to adjust the quality and file size, especially in Unity. Now, the compressor quality is quite good at what it does, to be honest. So let's have a real close look. Let's get rid of the metallic for now and the normal map. Actually, there's a lot of detail in the normal map, so let's put that in there. Ooh, it does not like that. That's because of this. So yeah. So it does look kind of junky, but we actually kind of want that for this discussion. So if we turn that off, apply. So that's the quality there. So that's at full resolution. So if we go to 1024, that does blur it quite a lot. So we don't want the normal map to go down in quality, but we do want it to go down in size. So now it's down to 0.9 meg from 2.7 meg. So that's halved, nearly a third of the size, and the resolution quality hasn't changed that much. That said, if you go down to 0, not that big. And it's 400k. So you have quite a lot of options with crunch compression and max size to save your file size as needed. So use that, and it will save a lot of problems. Well, a lot of file size anyway. Then I need to fix it again. Right. Now, of course, I don't need it this big, so I just use that so you can see the quality of that. This is kind of very clear on specularity. So, of course, I'm going to do a tile. So let's go 10, for example, which looks great. Now, if I really wanted to, what I could do, I'm going to turn that down to 512. So you can see that fuzzy. And then I'm going to use one of the materials for the floor. There's a normal map here, and then tile that. And then you get that quality back. So say, for example, I make this 512, crunch compression 50, apply that. So that way you get the main bumps on the normal. What do we got? What do we got? Where is it? Here. So you get the main bumps on this normal, and then you get the detail bump, which cleans up the fuzziness of the main normal because of a huge tile. So if you had a really small bump map, like detail bump map, and then just applied that to everything, you would actually get really high quality results really quickly. So let's just see what that happens as well. So it makes it a little bit darker. And if I wanted to, I could also make that the other direction as well. So I have this sort of like overall undulation, if you will, which allows you to sort of get rid of a lot of the tiling on over like hyper tiled objects, for example. So there's lots of things you could do with optimization of textures and cleaning up objects to create a nice effect, like so. 20 was better, I think. So there we go. So that's a really nice tile. And let's do another bake because we've changed some of the key information. Light settings. Hmm. Now, notice how this is actually very important as well. Notice how this is black, which is not great. What we want to do there is, I'll get to your question in a sec, Timberfet. Because glitch. So basically, what you'll want to do is, where is it? This one. And this is why a huge tile is not great, for example. So for this argument, I'm going to have to basically get rid of these, or let's... What am I doing? Basically, you have to include the object in the space, otherwise it will not be picked up in the reflection probe. So notice how that works there. So keep that in mind if things are darker than they should be. Make sure that the reflection probe actually encapsulates the things it's reflecting. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So just take note of that glitch if it's sort of playing up. So it does seem to be working there. So it's maybe not such a big thing. But yeah, all right. Light settings. So are you talking about these? I kind of just put them wherever it goes, but I could definitely move that around if I wanted to. So I could just put that in the space, and that would be fine. Is that what you mean, Timberfet? Of course, you would name it better. My light settings, and then updates there. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, cool. Yeah, doesn't really matter. But yeah, it could actually, that might be a good point. If it's not in some key folders, it might not get included in Playground. I haven't found that yet. So it could be a case of that. Feel free to chuck it in up here if you wanted to. So add a new thing, or just grab that and add it to here. That way you keep all of the things you do in your folder structure. So just for organization, you could do that. I don't think it is a case of if it's not in the folder, it won't get included. That should be fine. But that could be a glitch if that comes up. So there we go. So yeah. Any other requests? Yeah, there we go. So that's fine. What else could we do? How are we going for time? Yeah, 2 hours. Unless there's any other direct questions, I might wrap it up there with a 2-hour session, pretty much. Actually, I started about 10 minutes late, didn't I? So maybe another 5 minutes. Any more questions? Yeah, let me check the channel. Who's that? No, don't think so. Okay. What else was I thinking of? There was one thing that would be useful to know, but HDRI. So let's do a quick example of changing the skybox folder. HDRI. Let's go to Polyhaven, because they have a nice bunch of HDRIs. Let's just grab, I don't know, this one. Evening Meadow 2K. You could do 4K maximum. Once again, you can downgrade that in the space if you want to. I'm just going to download. Save as. Now this is the EXR, so I can save this directly into my space. Into there. Save. Get rid of that. Click on this. Change the texture shape to cube. Apply. Now this was 4K, so I'm going to set that to that. It won't make any changes. But if I wanted to, once again, I could put crunch compression on. So that's 32 meg, which you don't really want. I'm going to put that to 80. We could probably get away with 80. Still 32 meg. Why is that 32 meg? Right. So the quality is pretty high there. So let's go down to 50. Maybe HDRs don't change with the crunch compressor. Anyway, let's go to create material. HDRI. We want to set the standard to skybox cube map, and then we can drag our cube map texture directly into here, and then we have that, and then we can drag this onto that. Now notice how our bakes do not have that updated, so I'm hoping that when I bake this, it will work. So it works very brightly. So it's not too bad, I guess. Guess it checks out. It is a very bright part. So a little bit much. So let's go to our HDR and turn this down to 0.5. 0.7. Oops. 0.7. Okay. So be careful with your HDIs and make sure the exposure is good or the original is high quality and doesn't wash out all of your highly reflective spaces. If the floor wasn't so reflective, this wouldn't be an issue, of course. There we go. That's a bit better. All right, let's give this a shot. We have our sky. Notice how the shadows on reflective doesn't work as much unless you get light. So that's definitely a thing. You can kind of, maybe you just see it a little bit, but yeah. So notice how the resolution on that highly metallic one is not great, especially with such detail in the HDR. Well done, congratulations. I need a button that does the audience. I need to add that at some point. Okay, so we have our space. Now, in these cores, all of these boxes have colliders, for example, which is quite a lot. We don't really want that. I've done the bounty, man. I do know what it's like. I'm not allowed to anymore, but I definitely know what it's like. So in this case, I'm going to get rid of, I'm hoping, yeah. So I can click all of these, because they all have a box collider, I can remove that all at once. The spheres I'm going to keep. And then on the walls, I'm just going to create one box collider. And once again, this is just an optimization thing. So it's a simple example of what we should be doing, like putting mesh colliders on everything is not great in any way. So make sure that you're optimizing colliders as much as anything else, so that it only really needs to think about the things it does. So that's much better. If I really wanted to, because I'm not going to be able to run through there either, I could do that, but then you can't jump. But say, for example, I might add a second box collider. And put that there. Now, unfortunately, you can't name box colliders. So it's quite annoying when you have like 5 of these trying to optimize, but this would be a much more optimized space. So there's also that. Now, that one was this one, so I can copy that. Paste component as new. Oops. This one, I believe it was. Well, you can edit all of them as soon as you turn all of them on. You could, of course, create empty game objects and put colliders on that with a name if you wanted a bit more optimization. So if you had more than, say, 3 or 4, 4 is easy to keep track of, but when you have 8, not so much. So make empty game objects, put colliders, and that will make it a lot easier. If you do have to use a mesh collider, make sure that you use a retopologized or cut down version, like a low polygon version of the mesh collider. So if you had that sphere head of before, well, one, you could use a sphere collider, but if you had a sculpted object, then you would create a super low polygon version and then add a mesh collider, for example, and then I don't know if I'll have one. Let's import our head. Import new asset. Where was he? Desktop. Assets. Cube. Import. Well, let's, yeah, no, we'll do that. So say, for example, I would copy, where is it? So you have your mesh collider. and you have a material, which is not used in Mona, and then you have your mesh. Now, this is not the mesh, this is the mesh. So you would put that there, for example. Now, sometimes you can't see it. So I'm going to remove that. Create a game object, put it over here. Add a mesh collider. Why can't I see it? Sometimes I can't see it, and it's annoying. Sometimes if I do that, it will... Yeah, sometimes you can't see it. And I don't know why that is. That would be a Unity forum issue if you really needed to see it. So I can't help you with that just yet. Would you work for Amazon Game Studios? Probably depends on the game, to be honest. I kind of like what... Yeah, depends on the game. If they're making just another... Like, it would have to be a really interesting game, I think. Like, something different. Like, big names. Like, say, for example, if Blizzard came to me and said, hey, come work for... Not that they probably would, but if they did, I'd be like, well, which game? And maybe? Especially with all the stuff they're going through at the moment. I like Mona because they're sort of... I like the creative side of things. So Mona's great because of that, and there's not many... Well, yeah, but if that changes anything about Blizzard, who knows? There's so many layers to Blizzard now. So you got kind of Microsoft, and then you have Activision, and then you have Blizzard, and then you have the outsourced studios. So, I don't know. A bit too big. Amazon's probably the same. New World, no. I don't like the style. I don't like... I can't get into MMOs as much as I would like. Unfortunately, if they had an MMO that looked like Valorant and didn't have a grind somehow, like I don't really know how you would create an interesting MMO for me. I'm a hard sell when it comes to games. Like, I love games, I love the game industry, but it's gone a bit messy due to large companies, and I don't know. I think a lot of the creativity has been delegated to indies who can't afford to make huge games. So, yeah, that's my opinion. It's my hot take, which I have many, but I'll leave it at that before I turn into a rant. All right. Okay, so that's mesh colliders. Make sure you do not use high mesh objects as the mesh collider. Always use a cut down version using retopology that we covered earlier in this session, or even just simpler shapes like a box collider if you can, to save on that. So what did we do today? We created a lot of things. We made an audio reactor. We did some light mapping. We did reflection probes. We did light probes. We did a custom skybox. We did retopology. We did a quick bake. And that's it, I think, which is not bad for 2 hours of work. Happy you got something out of it. Thanks all for watching, and happy building. See you.